Hi all. I wanted to take a few minutes and share with you a little bit about the upcoming small group presentations, building on what was discussed in class and hopefully offering you enough guidance that you'll feel comfortable preparing for and then delivering and really understanding the larger aspect of the presentation opportunity that we have, which is really to continue to develop our understanding of an exploration of mindfulness, as well as to get an idea from excuse me, each other, what we're writing about, because that's interesting, and to get feedback from each other, because you're going to be writing to an audience that's not unlike your classmates, just the audience may not be as familiar with mindfulness. And so your classmates can provide you with, in some ways, a reality check to some things that you might not realize are overly complicated or not clear enough or confusing. And also to be able to, and this is very important, ask questions specifically that are on your mind to be able to get some feedback as you are exploring and beginning to, and in some cases in the middle of writing your papers. This is a work in progress. The presentation, for some of you, maybe you haven't yet begun writing, and that's fine. You have a general sense of where it's going, and this is an opportunity for you to prepare for the presentation by really getting into some of the specifics and then to be able to share it and to get some feedback. Now, as it relates to the presentation itself, I'm going to offer you some general guidelines. Of course, it's your presentation, manage it however you wish, but keeping an eye on what the paper itself is going to be sharing with the reader so that you can sort of test out what those are going to be here is pretty important. And so I'll be looking to the presentations to get a sense of, are the various pieces in place? Are they forming that would ultimately be a part of your paper? So a couple of things. One, begin with something like, and I guess I should say, as a reminder, presentations are between 4 and 6 minutes. If you end a lot, short of 4 minutes, I'll probably ask you to say more about something that you talked about or ask you a question just to help round out that time frame. And if you're pushing the envelope on 6 minutes, I will, assess if you're pretty much done or if I think you're going to go on. And if I think you're going to go on, I will let you know time to finish up the presentation. And I'll give everybody a 1 minute sort of reminder that you're approaching 6 minutes. Okay, so the presentations themselves. I would suggest you begin with something like, hi, my name is Scott Rogers and I'm a 3L at the University of Miami School of Law. And then to say I'm writing my paper on mindfulness and blank. You can be very specific with your title. You can say my title is and my subtitle is, or you can leave it more broad based on where you are and figuring that out and whether you might want feedback from your classmates on the more specific title and subtitle that you've come up with so far. After sharing with the reader the topic, then perhaps to say, if you're comfortable doing so, it certainly is likely to be something that will appear in your paper as well and offer an opportunity to sort of engage the reader or the listener in this case. The reason I chose this topic is because of blank, and to share with the reader what it is that prompted you to write about this. Now, once you've laid up that general foundation, the pieces of information that are going to be in your paper that you're going to want to, I think, field test and really consider structurally for purposes of your presentation are that you're going to talk about what mindfulness is, you're going to write about what mindfulness is, you're going to write about various mindfulness practices that can help to cultivate greater mindful awareness, and in particular the 1 or 2 practices that you're going to share with the reader, why you chose those. Then you'll, as we've discussed in class on numerous occasions, probably share a specific situation, maybe 2, possibly 3, and you can speak to these very generally in your presentation, like I'm going to talk about how mindfulness can be helpful with blank, and I'm going to use as an example a situation where somebody finds themselves in blank, and then how practicing mindfulness can be helpful. And you might say, I'm also going to talk about this situation and this situation, and I'll use those as the way to communicate the benefits of mindfulness to the reader. And then you'll want to share with the reader in your paper, and so you can begin to get a sense of what that's like here to say, and one of the reasons why I'm sharing this particular practice, you might say, is because in practicing this, one of the benefits is blank. And in the situation that I'm going to be writing about, that benefit can help in this way. And so this is the most difficult part, I think, of the paper, which is beginning to explain why it is that practicing mindfulness can be beneficial in a certain situation. And you'll only have a minute or so to touch on this. If you choose to touch on this in your presentation, I encourage you to do so if you've already begun to formulate why it is, because that will help you have a better sense of, and also your classmates to share with you a better sense of, does it make sense that you're writing about that practice? Like, why are you choosing that practice? That's really the heart of it. Now, for most of you, you will be including in your paper, and you've begun to think about this in the assignments that you previously handed in, etc., the primary mindfulness practice, an informal mindfulness practice, and a settling technique. And you'll share with the reader in the paper why it is, how the mindfulness practice, whether it's primary, formal, or informal, can be useful, the long-term as well as some short-term advantages, and then also how it is that in the moments of challenge, what might be really the most useful thing is a settling technique, and to share the settling technique. So you'll want to, I think, share with your classmates, this is the primary practice, this is the informal practice, and this is the settling technique that I'm going to be sharing with the reader in the paper, and here's why, right? So not just here's what they are, but here's why. And this is an opportunity for you not only to really zero in on what they're going to be if you haven't yet done so, but also for your classmates to understand, because you'll share with them why it is that you're choosing them, because then you can get perhaps a nice reality check and or confirmation or other things to think about in terms of the use of those. Because sometimes people pick a primary practice, an informal practice, and a settling technique that really don't connect up. And if that's the case, that would be good feedback to get from your classmates. And it could also be that they do connect up, but some people in the class are missing why, and they ask you, and that allows you to not only help inform your classmate, but also think through the fact that it could come off as confusing, and so to understand why for purposes of being clearer in your paper. Alrighty, I hope that's helpful. It's your 4 to 6 minutes to utilize as you'd like. The most important thing is for it to be helpful to you in working on your paper. So you might feel a tendency to want to play it safe and just sort of address certain things because they're simple to address, and that's fine, but you really may be missing out on the larger opportunity to actually have it help you with your understanding of mindfulness and the writing of your paper. That's what I care about, and I encourage you to be prepared so you know what you're going to say, and then comfortably share it and be open to the various feedback that you're going to receive. And to go into it, I would suggest, where you know some of the questions that you're going to want to put to your classmates, so that as you're talking, you might say, I'm going to be sharing this informal practice. The reason I'm sharing it is because of this, but I'm interested in whether you all think that makes sense, or if there's a different practice that you would recommend, whatever that may be. So look for where you are uncertain or you feel it might be weak in some way, and use the presentation as an opportunity to get some real world confirmation on that from your classmates. All right, I hope you find this helpful. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I look forward to seeing you this week and next week for the various presentations, and to our class this Friday. Wishing you all well.